So I'm joined today by Dr. Denise Gainey. We met years ago through Kal Opperman and one of his events. Thank you again for joining me. Would you care to share a little bit about yourself by way of introduction?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me, Frank. It's an honor to be here today. As you said, my name's Denise Gainey, and I am professor of clarinet and music education at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. I also am associate chair of the Department of Music, and I just started my term serving as president of the International Clarinet Association.
Nice. Congratulations on that. That was actually a surprise to me when we scheduled. I didn't realize that it happened. So
Yeah.
it would be interesting given the circumstances how things are going to play out with the organization. Is there any? I know there's a lot to get into, but is there anything you'd like to comment on that for now about how things are going to be handled in the era of coronavirus?
Right. Well, it's actually a terrifying and exciting time because we're finding new ways to be able to reach out to the membership and to try to be much more inclusive of the entire clarinet community. So because of the ability of Zoom and so many online resources, I think we're going to be able to reach a lot more people and just continue to be creative. We've got a lot of minds coming together to think about how we can creatively make the best of this difficult situation.
That's great. I know this whole endeavor on my end came about because of all these circumstances. My in-person studio became limited naturally. And we're not people to just sit around and do nothing and wait. So it's been exciting seeing so many other people come up with these new ways to I guess exercise their profession. So, but that's great. Now, what can you tell me about how did you get into clarinet in the first place?
Well, the very, very beginning was because my boyfriend in sixth grade played clarinet. So that was it. And my mother traded an antique necklace to get my first plastic Bundy clarinet from a neighbor her daughter had graduated. And that was my first clarinet. And I got into band. The boyfriend quit, and I kept going and was in love. But and seriously, to be serious about it, clarinet was something I think that saved me in junior high and high school, gave me a place to fit in, and just something I became incredibly passionate about. And luckily had great teachers so that I was able to succeed. But I began my career as a middle school band director in Pasco County, Florida, after graduating from Florida State University. But I always knew eventually that I wanted to teach at the university level. I just love clarinet, and that's where I felt that I could contribute the most. And that experience was invaluable, and I've never regretted it. And I'm still in touch with a lot of my students that I taught in middle school during that time, which is great.
That's great.
From there, after teaching for 5 years in the public schools, to go on to be a graduate teaching fellow at the University of North Texas for my master's degree in clarinet performance. And then at the end of that, was very lucky to win my first college job, the only job I had applied for, at a small liberal arts college called Mars Hill College, which is now Mars Hill University, just by Asheville, North Carolina, and Mars Hill, North Carolina. Beautiful part of the country. And I learned so much while I was there. I taught there for 9 years, getting to teach clarinet and lots of music education courses, which really gave me much better depth of what I was able to offer moving forward.
Mm.
Very fortunately there too, they had a great Southern Appalachian grant program for people who wanted to go on to pursue further graduate work. And so I won this amazing grant to go on to teach, to go to do my doctoral degree, my DMA at the University of Kentucky, which was one of the #1 schools that they funded. And the only thing I had to do to pay it back was to come back and teach for 2 years at Mars Hill. So I had a great
Good deal.
yeah, I had a great experience at UK. And my husband at the time was the band director there, and we both got to have this experience. We both won grants. And so it was a really wonderful experience then to be able to bring those exciting things back to Mars Hill. And then after being there 2 years, I loved that place. I'm very close still with my colleagues and former students from there, but I felt like it was time to move on to, another chance to grow and to build a program. And I won 2 jobs in the same week. I won North Dakota State University and the University of Alabama at Birmingham. And UAB was the smaller program at the time, and but there was something about the people. My mother was also closer in Florida, but I just fell in love with the idea of building something here. And I have loved being at UAB to see the program really flourish and grow, because I get to do the best of both worlds now. I get to perform a lot and teach a lot, so it's great.
It's great. Sounds like a good place. I think it's been a while, but I may have visited you down there for one of your events,
I do.
or at least planned to. I can't, it's been a while, but it's great. Let's see. So you've had a lot of time in education.
Mhm.
Um, what can you tell me about your best or worst days at work?
Well, in all honesty, my best days are when I see a student's eyes light up, that they finally understand a concept or that they recognize improvement that they've made. I can always see it, but it's a lot of times, as we know in our own playing, it's kind of hard when you're in the middle of it to see the growth until you maybe look back or record yourself and look back or something. But for the students, they're so in the moment that it's so easy for them to get frustrated when they don't see that progress. But when they finally notice, oh my gosh, I'm able to play this that I wasn't able to play last semester, or kind of looking at that big picture, nothing feels better than that. And for worse days, I would say instead of worse, not as good days, because
Sure.
it sounds very Mary Poppins, but I truly am so grateful to get to do what I love every day. And I think the days maybe that aren't as good are when maybe a lot of paperwork gets in the way, where I don't feel like I'm getting to do more of the things that I love,
Like
or if I haven't prepared as much when I don't see them, working toward their potential. That can be frustrating. But then it's my goal to try to get them to get to that place. So. But that's it. I mean, I'm doing administrative work too now, so it's a
okay.
mixture of my teaching and everything, and I actually really enjoy it. But sometimes it can be overwhelming, to have all of that going on with the mixture of everything now. So a lot of
Right.
things. But I'm glad to be busy. I love what I do.
Yeah, busy is good. That's good. Do you have any single proudest moment on the job so far? I know there's a lot of happy aha type moments, but is there any one you might stand out?
Do you mean as far as teaching specific or just career wise?
It could be either career wise or just everyday teaching, but something that stands out to you that might be of interest.
Sure. Well, I'll say a couple of things. Student-wise, I have a very special student who is a nurse now. We have, UAB is a very large medical school,
Hmm.
and many of my students go on to pursue being, in biomedical engineering, or go on to medical school. And one in particular has loved clarinet and stayed at UAB to do his master's as well, and would continue to be involved in the clarinet studio. But while I was teaching him as an undergrad, I remember the day that he played one of the Brahms sonatas and literally made me cry, because I was so proud of just the growth that he had made from coming in. And it was him, it wasn't me. I mean, I hopefully told him things that helped, but this person that was just not a music major, but so passionate, he might as well have been, and now he's gone on. He's a traveling nurse who's going out to help with COVID, places that are really impacted by COVID,
Hmm.
and just an amazing human being. And so I think those moments are so impactful to me, to see these young people, and I get to know them and love them and watch them go out and change the world in ways like that. So that is probably the happiest moment. Professionally, when Cal's book came out, when I was able
Wow.
to work with Louise and Richard Stoltzman and several of Cal's wonderful students to tell his story. And then recently, just some CDs that have come out that I'm excited about.
Hmm.
So lots of good things, but those are probably, that was a lot of years of work leading toward that. So it's a good thing.
Man, yeah, that's a concept I've been working on teaching to people. It's surprising how many people don't understand, but the idea that you have to work hard to achieve something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm constantly surprised at people's early frustration, but I mean it's great. That's part of why I'm talking to you is the things you've achieved through time and energy. It's I want people to be able to see that and give a goal for them to work towards as well. But that's great to hear. That last comment kind of segues into the next little bit about our teachers. I know, like I mentioned earlier, our connection is from Cal, but
Yes.
how did that all come about? And I know you've worked with a number of other people as well, but um, do you want to mention how everything started with Cal and maybe how things came out from there?
Sure. Well, maybe I think I'll start from the beginning if it's okay, because it kind of works into Cal
Right.
and the amazing life-changing experience that was working with him. I started at Florida State University studying with Fred Ormond, and then Fred left to go to Michigan, and Frank Kowalski came. And I adore Frank Kowalski, one of the most amazing musicians. And something I love about him is I always think of him more as the musician he is than the clarinet player. He's an amazing clarinetist, but you forget that he plays clarinet because he sings so beautifully through the instrument. And so that was a great experience to have a couple of years to study with him. And then when I went to North Texas, I studied with Jim Gillespie, which got me connected with the International Clarinet Association. And I find that so many of the things that I teach came from Dr. Gillespie. He was just such a master at fingerings and just different pedagogical techniques, which I found really helpful with the students I've worked with. When I went on to UK, I worked with Ronald Munson, and an interesting experience. He wasn't able to play in the faculty quintet at the time, so I got to do a lot of things like that during my doctoral degree, which was really fun, and do a lot of teaching in the studio. But the most impactful thing of all was when I was looking for dissertation topics and had one thing in mind, and then a good friend of mine, Larry Clark, who at the time was in charge of Carl Fisher Music, and he, vice president with them, and he said, hey, what about Kal Opperman? Kal writes for us, and I might be able to connect you. And so I decided, hey, that would be interesting, because I've heard so many things about his methods of teaching, and I've seen his books, but I really haven't heard a lot about him. And I started to do a lot of research, and I couldn't find, I just found there was really a dearth of information out there on anything to do with Cal. As we know, because he's so secretive, he really
Right.
kept things in. So I called him, and it was kind of terrifying to talk with him, and at first he agreed, okay, we'll do this. And then I'm excited, and I start to plan things and work on trying to get an interview with him. And then I got a call back from him, and he said, I've been thinking about this, and unless you come to study with me for 5 years, there's no way you can understand what I do. At least 5 years. And I said, okay, may I come study with you? And ended up going to Manhattan, my first time going to New York.
Mm.
And I will never forget coming up in the taxi. He made me take a taxi because he was worried about me. He called me Country Mouse because at the time I was coming from North Carolina, and he would tease me about that relentlessly. But I remember, coming up to 67 West 67, what is it, 17 West 67th Street, just down from Lincoln Center, and he was there with his arms crossed, and I know you could just see him, all 5'2" of him, and I, was struck by his small stature, but that didn't matter because he was huge in presence, huge. And then to go in, to the apartment and meet Louise, who I still love and adore, that's just has been incredibly helpful. And getting to know them. And as you know, lessons with Cal weren't normal lessons. They didn't last like we do in a university with 1 hour a day, 1 hour a week, and maybe a master class. It was hours a day. So I would fly up to Manhattan for a week at a time, typically, and lessons would be all day. Sometimes I'd be observing him watch other teachers, which was some of my favorite time, because I knew I'd come to him late in life, and I wasn't somebody, like an Adam who was with him since teenage years
Right.
and could absorb all of those things. So I was hoping to learn a lot, but very much so wanted to be able to carry on the pedagogy, because I really believed in what he was doing after watching him work and seeing what he did. But I got to the end of the first week with him and was getting ready to go home. And I, knelt before him. And at the time he had had, I believe, a heart attack a little before I came. And so he was teaching from his daybed, but still teaching every day, and just constantly working so hard. And he put his fingers in my face, and I'll go ahead and say what he said, but believe me if you need to. He said, "You don't know a goddamn thing about teaching the clarinet. Not a goddamn thing. You need to, start from scratch." And so this was, of course, for someone almost finished with a doctoral degree, was terrifying and disheartening, and really tough news to hear. And I went home and cried and cried and cried. I could hardly play my instrument because he had changed everything, especially my hand position was awful. But he called me, and I finally said, "How are you doing?" Because he would always call and check on you. And I finally admitted to him that I was struggling, that it was really hard to hear that, and that I felt like I couldn't play anymore. And he totally changed. "Why didn't you tell me this? Why didn't you tell me? You're doing fine. I'm giving you 5 years worth of work. It's just hours. All you have to do is take hours and practice." And from that point on, he was my biggest advocate in not only clarinet playing, but in life. He helped me go through a very difficult divorce at the time, and kind of move on to a new life. And he and Louise really they felt like they were my grandparents, who cared so much about me. I would bring my students at the time from Mars Hill, and then those that followed me to UAB. I'd bring them up with me. We'd sit down, they'd sit around me in that little apartment while Kal grilled me. And sometimes Dick Stoltzman would come in and sit down while Kal grilled me.
Right.
But I learned so much, and it changed my students too, because they saw that dedication that I was trying to show, that no matter what he said, it was "yes, sir," and I would try my best. And there would be tears sometimes because, as you know, one of the greatest gifts I think that Kal gave was the gift of brutal honesty. And that's difficult for teachers to do. I know I do my best to be honest and teach with my students, but my personality is not that way. I'm too soft-hearted. Kal had a soft heart. He just didn't always let people see it. He had a very soft heart. When he knew you were serious and you cared, he would do anything for you. But he felt it was his duty to always be truthful with us. And that's a great gift because that gets past all the fluff and gets to the heart of how do I really help this student to prepare and to be ready for a career that they want to have. And that's tough to do. So I just, in fact, did a presentation on Kal from my studio in masterclass yesterday and got to play some videos. You were actually in one of them from Clarinet Day when you were sitting by Dick Stoltzman and Kal was talking and Louise was taking the video and kind of panning around the room. But it's really neat to look back and think of those experiences that he gave us. And I think more than anything from Kal, I learned dedication and work ethic are the absolute crucial thing to have as both a student of the clarinet and a teacher of the clarinet. We have to have those things. Kal never took a day off. I would call him to wish him happy Thanksgiving. "Just another day to me. I'm working. What are you doing?" And that was just, I've never known anyone. He was a force of nature. Never known anyone like him. So losing him, as I'm sure you feel too, is a huge loss to the clarinet world. And just personally, not having that, there's so many things I still want to ask him. So many things that I think of him every time I open my case and pick up my clarinet. And I think about my bottom hand and I adjust it like he told me to do.
Yeah,
So,
all those, I mean, his particular way of things. I know for me, the way I describe it to people is like these lessons are branded in my brain. Because the way they were presented, it's very fixed in my brain. So it's and you're right, the dedication. I know I've had a lot of students who they're not going on to a career in music, but to communicate that you have to work hard and precisely and well, but whatever field you're going into, and it's one of those things I'm proud to share, and I know that serves people well.
oh yeah, yeah. Even that we can't teach in the same way that he did in the hours and all of that, there's still that idea of that respect for the instrument, that respect for that passing on the flame that he always talked about, the pedagogy that he carried through from Ralph McLean, Simeon Bellison, from the French tradition. just on into us and into our students. And I always try to impart that with my students, even if they're not going on to be professional musicians, that they are lovers and respect the clarinet, lovers of the clarinet, and respect the instrument. And no matter what they do to it, they always come to it with respect. I think about Kal and him, even when he was recovering, I got to him when he was 86 and he was still playing beautifully and, all of that. But I think about how every time he would pick up the clarinet, he would just assume that position. There was never slouching. There was never crossing the leg. There was always this perfect forme d'embouchure, insert the mouthpiece, and beauty of tone, no matter what he did, always, such attention to detail.
It's amazing. I've all the years that I've been playing, I've heard a lot of beautiful playing, but there's still something unique about that hearing his sound.
Yeah.
And
Also,
I hear a
video. Yeah.
shadow of it. I ever hear a shadow of it in everyone that I know who's studied with him. But and that's one of the things that I enjoyed about the experience with the Clarinet Summit, hearing so many of his students at once playing together. Yeah, the idea of the I guess the consistency of sound, it was really like hearing a single instrument, and that's really the first time I think I've experienced that.
Yeah.
And
School of clarinet, as he said, really is. You know.
um,
Think of, if I want to add one thing about just his dedication, and you've probably heard the story, Dick Stoltzman tells about he was getting ready to go overseas to, on tour, and his clarinet was out of adjustment. Kal was in the hospital hooked to tubes. He insisted that Louise go get his tools, and he made Dick come to the hospital, and he adjusted that clarinet, And I think about this right before the summit, where you and I were both there together, the Clarinet Summit. I had, the day before it began, performed at the Oklahoma Clarinet Symposium. And so I was coming along with a couple of students of mine. We drove deep into the night to get there so we could be there for the beginning of the festival. Well, Kal met us at the door. He was furious because he was worried about us. We didn't have cell phones and stuff at the time, I don't think yet. And so I didn't have a way to call him, to let him know. But he was worried that we had had an accident or something. And that he was up all night pacing, worried about us till we got there. And then he let me have it because we had worried him. Because he cared, goes back to that such dedication to each and every student, no matter what level they were.
it's great. I love that. I mean, I've met a lot of people who've had their encounters with that and were very put off and just never went down that path. But yeah, if you don't persevere, you didn't see the human side.
That's exactly it. I knew him by that time. I knew what it was, even though it was hard to have him yell at me, always. But on the other hand, you knew because he cared so much, and it went into the teaching too, so that if you were to play something well, and you would catch that little upturn of the lip, that little smile, it was like the sun came out, because so often it was just that brutal truth coming at you. And I think if I'd gone to him when I was younger, I wouldn't have been ready for it, because just
Yeah,
so
yeah.
but coming to him older, it was still tough, but I could see the importance of what he was giving me. Um, and I saw huge improvement in so many areas of my playing. I'm still working at it. I just consider myself
Yeah.
always to be a student. And I so wish I could have even one more lesson with him. But
Right. That's another aspect of it all that I've carried on myself is the idea that you're still, like, you've never arrived. You're still going.
those
You
are the
know.
best. You think of so many of his students who studied with him for over 40 years. Who does that? You know? But he had that much to offer in every aspect of playing. I mean, if you think about it, who out there as a teacher can not only teach amazingly, but can write the etude books or the solos that you're performing or working on? He's had a recording and performing career that most people would just dream of, right? He can make barrels and mouthpieces. He can adjust instruments. I mean, no teachers today that I know of have that broad ability. It's just an old school of an approach of being able to help the entire aspect of training the student through everything, you know. And I certainly can't do that. But what respect I have for him, for the amount of knowledge. And yet, even though he came off always so brash, he was so humble about it. He would often say, I've been doing this for, at the time, 87 years. And I know so little. What's your excuse? He would always say, what's your excuse? So just that idea that we are constantly learning.
It's great. I feel like we could talk about Kal for hours and hours, but let me bring it back to you. What do you have any particular repertoire that moves you, that really moves you? I know there's a lot to choose from, but
Yeah, right. I love orchestral playing, but right now chamber music is my passion. I get to play. Our Alabama Symphony Orchestra rehearses in our Performing Arts Center, and until COVID, I get to play with them a lot, but just as a sub because they have, it's a full-time core orchestra, which I cannot do as a full-time faculty at UAB, and there are wonderful clarinetists in there, which I love to get to play with when the opportunity arises. But I've found at UAB, my big passion has been, and since undergrad really, has been playing in chamber music. And so right now I'm involved in three different ensembles. And the theamicitiaduo is my heart. That's with my best friend Diane Barger, who's the professor of clarinet at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and she just took on president-elect of the ICA. So I'm
oh
looking
well.
forward, yeah, to working with her. We were excited that happened because we've got a lot of enthusiasm and energy and hope to make some really positive changes happen. But we're commissioning lots of works for us. We just had a CD come out. I do, ta-da, play pretty. But just really fun. We found that our niche, Diane is an amazing E-flat clarinet player.
Mm.
And we found that we're trying to fill that niche of works for E-flat and B-flat clarinet, either with or without piano. And we've had some great composers. We just had a piece come sent to us from Daniel Dorff, which we're excited to play. We've had tons of interest out there. We've got some ideas. We're looking for grant funding so we can start to commission even more works for our next CD. But the ability to get to play with Diane has been so fun because we played together for years and we decided to finally make it official. And for me, as far as, I love that combination. And I think it's really neat. Diane is a buffet artist, I'm a Bacoon artist, but it doesn't matter. We come together and we have this similar sound concept because we both studied with Frank Kowalski. We both have, we kind of start from the same tree, and then she branched out to Robert Marsalis. I went to Cal. But it's really neat to bring those things together as we go around when COVID stops, go around performing and doing master classes. And then we just did a big online festival this past weekend called the Amicitia Clarinet Extravaganza. And Amicitia is Latin for friendship. So that's where we come from there. But we're really trying to find ways to reach the broad clarinet community by bringing in really wonderful our friends. We brought in friends from all over the place and talk about talk on different panels. We're going to do it again in spring. But it's fun, and we're trying to present things in a pedagogical series that we're doing too, called the Play Pretty series, that is for clarinet players of all levels and band directors. So we're just trying to help clarinet players who are just starting out, hopefully inspire some who are, great professionals out there who might be interested in trying something different, and also helping band directors so that we end up with better clarinet players because they know how to teach the instrument.
Yeah.
Cal used to always be so upset about he was not happy with the state of public school teaching, but clarinet's so different. It's hard, to teach well. You get a brass player in there, they don't understand voicing. Unless they've been told, they've been taught by a clarinet player, it's just hard. So I don't blame them, but we're trying to help make things better. And then my other ensembles, I have the UAB Chamber Trio, which is really interesting. It's trumpet, clarinet, and piano. And a CD released last year that by Ravello Records that we really enjoy. Again, we've been doing calls for scores and having pieces commissioned for us. So I love being a part of getting a lot of new literature out there for different ensembles, And then my last chamber ensemble is with my soprano colleague at UAB, Christine Hurst-Weischek, and we just released, literally just a few months ago, the music of Lori Laitman. That we had The Secret Exit, which is a piece that we had commissioned, and then we also did some other things, but I was very happy that we got to open the CD with Un Sul of Kal's piece, which was difficult to play because it made me cry just thinking of him, missing him, and that piece makes me think of him so much. But as far as the type of music, so chamber music is my favorite, but I must admit I'm a big sucker for romantic music. I
Yeah.
always have, but I'm open to new things. That's probably my favorite though.
Nice. Oh, I want to backtrack a little bit. You mentioned the trio with the trumpet and piano. Uh,
Yeah.
how much body of work is there for that? I know I have part of my asking is selfish because I have friends who play those, and I've been wanting to play together with them, but I've
Yeah.
had a hard time finding work that all three of us could do at the same time.
Right. There are very few pieces that are out there, right? So that's why we made it our mission. Every year we do call for scores. Every year, we try to get new pieces written to build our repertoire, because there's just not a lot out there at all. But in a university of my size, the full-time faculty, we have great adjuncts who are from the Alabama Symphony teaching with us, and we have a great full-time faculty. But in the winds, Jim and I, my trumpet colleague and I, are the two main full-time wind teachers.
Hmm.
Everyone else adjuncts as far as teaching in the wind area. And so we decided, hey, we need to have this trio because he has a brass quintet going, but it's difficult for me to do woodwind quintet, which I love. I wish we had. But the Alabama Symphony folks are busy. They don't have time to do that. Um, so we found this is our niche to be able to have some creative activity at school with colleagues. And it ends up working really well. At first I thought this is going to be an interesting combination, but
Right.
the colors actually work, especially when you find a composer who gets the instruments. It actually works really well, and it's fun for our students to see the brass and the woodwind working together in that way, and trying to blend and all of that. It's a fun challenge.
Yeah. Um, do you have we've been talking about a lot of different things. Do you have some kind of discography or anything like that's publicly available, a link or anything to any of those resources? I can post it in the show notes.
Do you just mean of the literature that we've had
Yeah,
composed?
well, the literature, the recordings you've done, or the recordings that you're trying to promote that are more recent. Anything that you want to share that you've talked about so far.
Sure.
Um,
I can.
I'm happy to put it up. I know for my own benefit because I'm curious about music to play with my friends, but also
Sure.
for a broader audience.
I'd be happy to send you some CDs too, just so you.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Um, Yeah,
Uh,
I'll be glad to send that to you. Neat thing, we just did an interview last night with my soprano colleague and Lori Laitman and her daughter Diana Rosenblum, who also has a piece on the CD. We found that the piece is up for Grammy consideration, so we're really
oh, wow.
excited about it. It's published through Naxos. But it's just fun to have these opportunities, especially it's later in my career now, getting older, and so it's fun to see these things kind of begin to happen. Along with the work with the ICA, it's gratifying and terrifying and all those kinds of things exciting at the same time.
Well, that's how you know it's good, right? The-
You always live on the edge, right?
oh man, that's great. So yeah, I'll look forward to listening to that and posting that for our audience. Now you mentioned briefly you're a Bacoon artist.
Yes. Mhm.
So would you like to talk a little bit about how you ended up with Bacoon and what maybe the things that you prefer about it?
Sure. And first of all, I just want to say, we are really lucky at this time in the world of clarinet. There are amazing instruments made by every clarinet maker, and mouthpieces, and barrels, and ligatures, and all that stuff. So we're really fortunate, and I just encourage people to be open and try everything because you may not know. You might try something, and all of a sudden it's your sound that you've been trying to get, and that's what Bacoon was for me. I've played another clarinet for my whole career, and about, I guess, 10 years ago now, I played the, oh my goodness, I'm forgetting what's called the Legacy now, which was the last clarinet that Maury, he was working with LeBlanc.
Hmm.
And a friend of mine was a rep for Sommer LeBlanc. He said, "Oh, just try it," because I'm not a big equipment junkie. I find what I like, and
Right.
I stay with it. And my students play all sorts of instruments, you know. I don't force them to play anything. I just always make sure they get to try things and find what works for them. But I played this instrument and I was, oh my gosh, all of a sudden things were easier that were hard before, you know. My only sadness was that Cal's barrels, his wonderful barrels he made for me, did not work on that clarinet. But
Mm.
then Maury left and started the Bacoon company. And I ended up, you know, talking with him and deciding to go with him and just have fallen in love. I play MOBAs right now.
Mm.
I would love to get a set of Lumières. That's my next goal, my wish list. But for me, you know, I love the sound, the evenness of sound that I'm able to get. My horns are Coca-Cola wood, and there's just a different kind of, to me, a sweetness in the sound.
Mm.
And I'm playing MOBAs with a Lumiere bell and barrel right now. So, but I love them. For me, that's home. It just feels like home. That my hands felt better on everything, and I think that's why everybody's got to try stuff and find what is their best fit. There's no one right thing for everybody, you know. For me, that's it. But I also play, you know, when I play bass clarinet E flat, I have a Buffet Prestige Low C and a Buffet E flat clarinet that I love. And I've played Yamaha, I've played some, I've, you know, played them all. They're great instruments, but MOBA's, the Bacoons are home for me. Feels great.
Nice. Um, let's see. This might be hard to distill into a small snippet, but what's some core advice you might have for students? It's very broad, so I guess we have to pick choose carefully.
Yeah,
But
there's so much I'm still learning. I would say to know that you can learn something from everyone and to be humble, to work hard, and do not burn bridges. Don't burn bridges. You just never know when you might have to cross that bridge again. That was great
yeah,
advice given to me many years ago. Um, and I will share, I've shared this many times. My students probably roll their eyes if they hear it. But one of my favorite quotes came from a music ed professor of mine at Florida State, Dr. Cliff Mattson. And he said, the student you are is the professional you will be. All
mm,
right. So if you want to be a great clarinetist, you need to start now doing the things that a great clarinet player does. You can't wait until you've graduated and all of a sudden you're a professional. So that, to me, that goes to the broad picture of not even only how we practice, but how we send emails to professors and to people, how we present ourselves on social media, you know, just creating those daily habits of the person you want to be. Because by doing that every day, you create that routine, you create that experience and lead yourself to your goals. I really believe that. And, you know, I think that along with connecting with the International Clarinet Association so that you have inspiration from some of the greatest players in the world, and then you start to build networking connections with people who can help to guide you in your career, hopefully help you, make you aware of jobs that are available, and if
mm,
they've gotten to see you and get to know you, maybe want to recommend you for those jobs. Just become mentors to you. So I think that would be my biggest advice to young players.
yeah. No, that's been invaluable to my own career over the years. The value of the network.
Yes.
Um, you know,
Have good people around you. It really helps. You know.
it's great. Before I veer off into into other territory, is there anything you'd like to discuss since you're at the helm of the ICA now? Is there anything else you would like to share about, you know, stuff that's coming up? Maybe anything more specific about how we're dealing with, you know, the virus and professional development?
Sure.
Anything at all about ICA if you want.
Sure. I'm really excited. I think every president comes to their position with some kind of passions in mind that they want to address. And so mine are dealing both with diversity, inclusivity, you know, equality, and also education. So trying to bring, I want the ICA to be a place that teachers come to, whether they're band directors or clarinet teachers, you know, specific with a studio, they can come to us as a resource for videos on embouchure in all languages, you know, trying to broaden out, and that would be the other thing, trying to broaden that the ICA truly becomes international, that we have many more of our international members joining us, people from across the world. So we're so American right now. And so this is started with Caroline Helton, who just ended her term as past president, who worked tirelessly and is still on the Internationalization Committee that we just began with Eddie Van Stoja at the helm. He's our international vice president, which is a new position that we brought in to try to help to broaden our reach. And so I'm really excited to see us try to bring in, offerings that are in multiple languages. We've already started doing that with the journal, having some, articles that are in Chinese, and, just trying to have things that people are going to want to come to us, that they feel like they can get something, that they can see people that look like them, they can find something at their level. So for example, when I talk about education, not just our youngest players, but our enthusiasts, people like my student Vincent, who is a nurse, who love the clarinet and continue to play throughout their lives, but don't, maybe the ICA doesn't have a lot to offer them right now. So we've created a committee that's going to be working on that, to help to bring in more diversity of all kinds of clarinet players. And I'm really excited. We have a new website in the works, which is going to enable us to do a lot of exciting things. We're still planning on Clarinet Fest to take place in Fort Worth. And, please let the vaccine come and everything happen. But Mary Druin and her artistic team are doing an amazing job at planning. And there's a big educational component there that's going to be a part of it that even starts before the festival begins for young people. And then offerings for clarinet players of all ages. So, there are many things happening right now. The diversity committee is very exciting to me. Anthony McGill is our chair, and for him to bring his experience, his visibility to the subject to help us, really try to make, the goal is making real change, not just talking about it, but making real change so that we bring everybody in as a clarinet family. No matter who you look like, who you love, where you come from, what kind of clarinet you play, none of that stuff, that we come together for the betterment of the love of the instrument, right? So that's probably a lot of more than you wanted to know, but I think those are my hopes and dreams and my passions right now. We're working really hard at it, and I'm so grateful to be surrounded by an amazing board, people who are, Mitch Ester and Diane Barger, Eddie Venestoja, Todd Kerstetter, and Chris Nichols, and then of course Jessica Harry, who is our EDO, Executive Director of Operations, and Rachel Yoder, who's doing a beautiful job with the journal, and then we just, Jenny McClay working with social media. So it's a really good team of people who just, they're passionate. They want to get things done. And so we're changing things in a way that enables us to get more done more quickly, and trying to include more people in that educational process by creating committees to bring people who are interested in, rather than things just coming from the top and sprinkling down. We want to bring people in to be a part, to take ownership of the association. I think that's going to be key into helping it really grow to the next level, the next place, especially in this time of COVID.
That's good. That's great to hear. I know my own endeavors, I've been trying to find ways to reach broader audience like that, talking to friends who speak other languages about subtitling material. And
Right.
so I'm looking forward to the kind of work that that your administration for the organization will be putting out, because I know that's the direction I'm going myself. So
Fantastic. Share ideas. And anybody watching this, please email me, right? It's president@clarinet.org. Please email me, send your ideas, send them to Jessica at edo@clarinet.org, because we truly want to make a difference. That's got to keep going forward. A lot of great things have happened, and we're in a new and different place in the world right now. We've got to change with it. So that's what we're trying to do.
that's great. Now I know, because I've been a member, but for anyone new to the organization, what are some of the perks with the membership?
Oh my gosh. Well, we just, in fact, did a whole thing on that on our, if you want to watch any of the how to use the ICA website that Jessica did for us on our Amikiti Clarinet Extravaganza, it's on our YouTube channel, which will kind of you through everything. But just to give you some ideas, besides the amazing journal, which you can either get in print or online, we're trying to be, sensitive to conservatives, to being conservative with our resources, and so we're giving people the opportunity to do that at a discounted rate. If you look at the website, so many opportunities to get to articles that are indexed there that you can use for pedagogy, for preparing and working on recital pieces and ideas for music. There'll be interviews. We're starting to add video content. There's also going to be a forum that's opening back up. We used to have one of those, and we're very soon going to be opening that up so that clarinets can come together. Clarinetists can have a safe place to come and talk about the issues. Sometimes Facebook is not the safest place, so we are going to have a great people of adminning the page, to making sure that it's safe and free from things that make people not want to go there, right? Social media. But there's such a collection of so much information, wealth of information. There's the ability to translate right now, which will be improved with our new website, so that anybody coming to it can pick the language that they want to see the website in. And just, on and on. Opportunities for scholarships. We have competitions at Clarinet Fest. We're looking to increase different kinds of competitions so we can bring in, again, not just the young people, but perhaps competitions for enthusiasts.
Mm.
We sponsor compositions being written. Just so many good things. There are travel grants for young students wanting to come to Clarinet Fest who can't afford it. Just many things. And we're trying to open up scholarship opportunities for people. And when you go to Clarinet Fest, that's like it's like a little piece of heaven. You're getting to walk and see your idols walk around and hear them perform and talk to them and realize they're just real people just like you. Even though I still always fangirl when I see certain people, and getting to hear them play, I always go home with such feelings of inspiration, ready to learn new music, ready to just to get back at it again, to try to grow and be better. And just seeing all the clarinet players of all ages come together, being able to go to the exhibit hall and hear the cacophony that is there of people
Yeah.
trying everything and looking for new music and just sitting there talking and kind of reconnecting with each other. And I'm hoping that with the capabilities of the new website and the more things we're able to do with Zoom, that we're going to be able to do more and more of that, so we don't have to wait until summer every year to connect, but that we can find ways to connect throughout the year with different online offerings, which we've already started doing, but we're going to increase that ability.
That's great. Yeah, it's a rich resource for
Yeah.
anything and everything clarinet. Um, so if you want to send me that link for the video you've made on that, I'll put it in the show notes as well.
Okay.
All right, so some more uh, juicy information about you as a person. Um, what else do you do? I know clarinet's a big part of your life, but I'm sure it's not everything. What else do you enjoy doing?
And that's something I've learned as I've gotten older, that you have to have, I think it makes you a better teacher and musician to have other things that you do to broaden your world. So for me, I write, of course I wrote Cal's book, but I also have a blog on WordPress. It's just Denise Gainey at WordPress. And I write about life. I write some poetry. I write, I began writing that when the last couple of years of my mother's life, when I was caring for her, and it just kind of branched out into other things. So it was a great release for me, and I found that I love writing. So I'm also getting ready to start doing some educational blogging for Bacoon, which I'm really excited about, for their blog. And what else? And I kickbox. I'm a certified kickboxing teacher.
Ah,
I just a little while ago here in my garage. And I every day faithfully walk or run with my big 80-pound husky Marley. And then a big love of mine, my husband and I love to bike ride together. And we also have a 100-year-old home that we are constantly working on. We don't have children, so everything goes into what we call Shea Gainey, which is like a big tree house here in the city with, it's built on the side of a mountain. So we have all these levels of decks that we just rebuilt. Oh my God. But it's fun. It's our kind of our hobby together to continue to restore this old house, and it brings us a lot of joy. And my
I would
husband
say
teaches
that's you're down around Appalachia, so I'd imagine bike riding is always an adventure.
workout, especially coming up the hill.
Nice. I hope to make it back down there at some point to see you again. And I know you have your own regular events down there as well for clarinet, right?
Every year I started doing that at Mars Hill. It first was the Southern Appalachian Clarinet Retreat, and now it's the UAB Clarinet Symposium. Because of COVID, Diane and I are continuing right now we're going to do another Amakitia event the first weekend in March when we would typically have the UAB Clarinet Symposium. But we're finding we can just reach a much broader audience this way. And until the time when we can really feel safe again, we're going to continue, I think, going this online route for now. Because we had a lot of fun with planning it and bringing in really interesting people to talk about a variety of topics, and so we'll see how that goes. But I do hope to get the on ground Clarinet Symposium back again because we've had so many wonderful people here. My students love it. It's hard work for them because they help to run it, but bringing in the Alabama community, and then we've had people come from several different states to join us here. It just has grown and grown, which is fun. So I'm sad not to have it this year, and that we had to miss it last year. Well, we had just had it last year. That's right. We had it, and then I went on tour to Texas, and then the school shut down, the life shut down. So this will be the first year that we won't have had it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, more things to come, great things to come, regardless. So, it doesn't seem like you would have a lot of free time with everything you're involved in. But do you have any books or media that you're into right now that you might recommend? Like, I don't know, Netflix has been fairly popular with lockdown, but anything like that you've been into lately?
Sure, I don't have Netflix. I'm one of the weird people. I don't watch a lot of TV. The only thing I like to watch a little HGTV because of my love of renovating homes and the DIY network. Just to kind of, I especially right now, I don't enjoy watching the news very much. Just everything is so divisive. So I'm looking for things to bring calm and peace. Two books that, and I don't get to read a lot. I typically read like right before bedtime because the day is really crazy. But Big Magic, which is Creative Thinking Beyond Fear by Elizabeth Gilbert.
Hmm.
Broken Open, How Difficult Times Help Us Grow by Elizabeth Lesser are two really good books, especially right now for me, just to kind of give me hope and thinking about bigger picture, and thinking about how to continue to be creative even in stressful times. Both creative with my instrument, hopefully creative in my job, and creative in my writing. So those are probably, as far as things online. I do really recommend that people check out the ICA website, especially when the new one comes out. We have so many great ideas for it, but I think it would be a great source of inspiration for people to go check it out. And students can join right now for $10 until January 1st.
Wow.
So, $10, any student. So tell them far and wide, please join us. Come check it out and see what it's all about.
It's a great value, great opportunity. All right, digging a little deeper. Is there, and it doesn't have to be too earth shattering, but is there anything that you used to believe that you don't believe anymore?
I think, yes, that I no longer believe that there is one way to be successful. I think that everybody has to find their own path in music and in life, and that you have to find what makes you happy. So it doesn't mean that you have to be principal clarinet Chicago Symphony to be a success. You can be success teaching students and helping them grow at whatever level, whether you're teaching beginners or you're teaching, a high school band or whatever you're teaching. That if it brings joy and you're doing something good and putting it out there in the world, you are a success. So I think that's a change from my young days of thinking you've got to be all that.
Yeah, that's important. I know I've experienced myself, and I've seen it in colleagues. Like, I'm definitely going to be the next principal of Chicago Symphony, or it's like, well, life doesn't work that way, but it doesn't mean you're stuck. Like, there's a
Right?
lot of great things yet to accomplish. But that's good to hear. Um, is there anything? We're coming to the end of our hour. Is there anything that I didn't ask you yet that maybe I should have?
I don't think so. I think
I don't want
interesting.
to presume this is the last time we're going to talk either.
Oh, I hope not. I hope not. No, it's been fun.
Yeah, I likewise. This is the added selfish benefit for me is I get to talk to people that I need to catch up with, and kind of scratches that professional itch that's been locked away for the last couple of months.
Yes, it's been
Uh,
tough,
yeah,
hasn't it?
I'm happy you're obliging. Um, let's see. Uh, you mentioned a lot of what you're into. Before we cut out, is there anything else that you want to recap and just mention? Put a plug in for one more time, and again, you can always send me the links to things. I'll put them in the show notes for people later. But
Yeah, I'm hard at work with the ICA right now. Very excited about all the offerings that Diane and I are doing through theamicitiaduo.com. We have a website, we have a YouTube channel, so go check us out there. I think one of the many blessings of this pandemic have been things like this, where we're getting to talk with people that we might not normally have talked with before and finding inspiration. There's so many people out there putting great stuff out on the internet, and just trying to be creative and trying to help other people. And I've found it's been a huge gift in my teaching. So, all of our master classes this semester are online at UAB.
mm,
And so I have these amazing people who I would never have been able to afford to bring in, who are kindly giving an hour of their time to talk with my students about different topics. And I just look at, David Cook is out there putting a series of neat things out. Just a lot of people and performances, some great performances that people are getting inspired to do. So I am hoping to continue to be a part of that. But you can also find me at UAB, clarinet at uab.edu. And I will share the information on the CDs with you. And just have really enjoyed getting to talk with you today and to see some of my Opperman family.
yeah,
We are all family to the end, and so it's neat to have that connection always.
yeah. Well, it's likewise. It's been great talking to you, catching up. Crossing my fingers that we get to talk and see each other in person sometime soon. Universe permitting. Um, but yeah, Doctor Denise Gainey. It's been a wonderful hour or so. Yeah, right about an hour. Um, Check out all of her body of work that's in the description below. And again, thank you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. This has been a joy. Thanks.
Take care.